In the year 1884, a cruel chill swept across the Arizona desert, the kind that warned of trouble long before it arrived. On the edge of Red Rock Crossing lived young Nora, a bright child whose life once danced with mustangs and sunlight, until tragedy, cruelty, and a monster in her own home forced her into a desperate midnight run. Watch till the end, partner, to uncover what happened that night and who came riding to save her, changing the fate of two families forever. Tell me where in the world you're watching from, and if these Western tales make your day a little better, subscribe now. Your support keeps them coming.
The year was 1884. A biting, unseasonal chill had settled over the arid expanse near the settlement of Red Rock Crossing, a rugged outpost in the Arizona Territory. In a small, weather-beaten cabin clinging to the edge of the desert lived a man named Samuel, his wife Mary, and their 8-year-old daughter Nora. Samuel was not like the typical hard-bitten frontiersman. He possessed a rare, quiet generosity and a heart as open as the prairie sky. He was known for his genuine camaraderie, a quality that had forged a deep, abiding friendship with Elias Thorne, the owner of the sprawling Thorne Ranch, the largest spread for 50 miles. The Thorne property was famed not just for its sheer size, but for its magnificent herd of mustangs, creatures that embodied the untamed spirit of the West. Both Samuel's and Elias's families shared an almost sacred reverence for these powerful animals. It was a ritual, as predictable as the setting sun, that Samuel would take young Nora on the long ride to the Thorne Ranch. Nora, a child with eyes the color of the desert sage after a rain, lived for these visits. At the ranch, the two families' children, Nora and Elias's 8-year-old son Lucas, would spend hours in the vast, unfenced pasture. Lucas was a boy of fierce loyalty and an unusual, mature stillness. He was the son of the ranch, his skin already tanned to leather by the relentless sun, his movements mirroring the grace of the horses he helped tend. They didn't just play near the horses, they were part of the herd. They learned the secret language of snorts and stomps, the rhythm of the thundering hooves. Lucas would share tales of the local indigenous Aravepa tribe, stories about how they respected the wild horses, drawing vivid pictures in Nora's mind of spectral riders and ancient treaties with the land. Nora, in turn, would share the simple songs her mother taught her, melodies that seemed to calm even the most skittish yearling. This beautiful shared life continued for nearly 5 consecutive years. Every season, every birthday, was marked by a gathering at the ranch. The bond between the two families, and especially between Lucas and Nora, developed into a steadfast, unbreakable cord, woven from shared laughter, quiet understandings, and the endless expanse of the Arizona desert. Then tragedy struck with the swift brutality of a dust storm. One harsh spring, Samuel was taken by a virulent fever that swept through the territory. He was gone within days, leaving Mary and Nora adrift in a world that suddenly felt cold and menacing. Mary, a woman whose inner strength had been masked by Samuel's protective love, found herself unable to manage the claim alone. She accepted a proposal from Silas Vane, a newcomer to Red Rock Crossing, a man who promised security and protection. But Silas was a viper in a man's coat. His promises were as hollow as a dried-up riverbed. Once the marriage was secured, his true nature emerged, a dark, festering combination of cruelty and dissipation. He soon tired of the isolated cabin and the responsibilities of family life. He began to spend all his time in town, fueled by cheap whiskey and the gambler's desperate thrill. Mary and Nora became prisoners in their own home. Silas rarely returned, and when he did, he brought only drunken rage and the sting of his heavy hand. The little girl who once danced with mustangs now moved through her own house with the silent, watchful caution of a hunted animal. Lucas and the Thornes, sensing a coldness, a distance, were kept away by Mary's shame and fear of Silas's retaliation. 3 long, agonizing years crawled by under Silas's tyranny. Nora was now a resilient, fiercely independent 16-year-old, though the shadows of fear never truly left her eyes. Lucas, now 16, often rode his pony to the edge of the property line, gazing toward the distant cabin, a knot of worry tightening in his chest. He missed the sunlight that used to shine from Nora's eyes and the warmth of Samuel's easy smile. One night the air was thick with the smell of mesquite smoke and the fear that had become a permanent fixture in the small cabin. Silas stumbled through the door, his clothes reeking of stale whiskey and the acrid smell of defeat. His face was a mask of raw, desperate fury. He had lost everything at the card table, including the last scrap of Mary's inherited savings. Mary was sitting in a rocker near the dying embers of the fireplace, exhausted and resigned. Nora was quietly washing the last of the supper dishes by the flicker of an oil lamp in the kitchen. Silas's bloodshot eyes landed on the child, and his drunken mind twisted his failure into her fault. You little cursed piece of misfortune." Silas slurred, his voice a rasping snarl. He stumbled toward her, knocking a stool aside. "It's you. You've poisoned my luck. Just because of your ugly face, I've been fleeced of every single coin. I am ruined, but no more. I'll clear my debts with your worthless hide." Nora froze, plate slipping from her numb fingers, shattering on the wooden floor. She knew with a chilling certainty that went beyond her years, that this was the end. He meant to sell her. Mary shot up from her chair, her eyes blazing with a maternal fire that had been long dormant. "Silas, stop! She is just a child. You won't touch her." He backhanded Mary across the face, sending her reeling against the mantelpiece. "Stay out of this, hag, or you'll join her." As Silas staggered toward Nora, his hand raised, Mary screamed a single desperate word that tore through the silence. "Run, Nora, now." Nora didn't hesitate. As Silas reached for her, she shoved the full force of her small, terrified body against him. The unexpected push, combined with his drunken instability, sent him sprawling hard against the hearth. The momentary confusion gave her the opening she needed. She was out the door and into the moonlit desert night, running blindly, driven by sheer terror. She ran past the outhouse, past the well, toward the only sanctuary her mind could conjure, the Thorn Ranch. Silas, a creature of pure mindless rage, scrambled back to his feet. He saw the child's fleeting silhouette. Roaring like a maddened beast, he ran to the small lean-to where he kept his horse, a gaunt, mean-spirited stallion named Shadow. He threw himself into the saddle and spurred the horse after the running girl. Clip-clop, clip-clop. The sound of the pursuing hooves was a terrifying drumbeat of impending doom. Nora ran harder, her small lungs burning, the jagged rocks tearing at her worn boots. She could see the distant, familiar silhouette of the ranch's outer boundary, the high, sturdy corral fence that held the wilder section of the Thorn herd. Keep running. The horses, they'll know." She dove under the bottom rail of the fence, scraping her back but finding purchase on the softer earth inside. Silas reached the fence line. Moments later, he saw Nora scrambling to her feet in the wide open field where a score of powerful mustangs were resting. His blood-crazed mind didn't register the danger, only the obsession to capture his quarry and exact his terrible revenge. He let out a maniacal scream and forced Shadow to clear the high fence in a reckless, desperate leap. The impact of the heavy horse landing inside the enclosure was a violent intrusion. The scent of a panicked, strange horse and the raw, aggressive malice radiating from Silas were an immediate alarm to the sleeping herd. A huge black stallion, the undisputed leader of the Thorn Mustangs, snorted a warning. The horses, creatures attuned to the slightest shift in the desert air, sensed the pure, unbridled aggression emanating from the man and his mount. They didn't see a rider, they saw a threat. They didn't see a man, they saw a predator. With a collective thunderous crack that shook the ground, the entire herd erupted. They ran, but not away. They ran toward the danger. Like a living, breathing tidal wave of muscle and fury, the horses descended on Silas. He barely had time to register the terrible mistake. The air was filled with the deafening sound of snorting breath and the terrifying, relentless thwack, thwack, thwack of iron-shod hooves. Silas' Vane was overwhelmed, crushed and silenced under the terrifying righteous judgment of the wild mustangs. It was the noise, a sound unlike any Lucas had ever heard, that dragged him from his bed. Not a normal stampede, but a concentrated violent uproar, a cacophony of fear and furious retaliation. He grabbed his oil lamp and threw on his boots, running toward the commotion. He swung open the heavy gate and stepped into the field, the air heavy with the scent of fear and fresh earth. The horses, having dealt their swift justice, were settling, their nostrils flaring, their bodies twitching with residual adrenaline. Then, Lucas saw her. Nora. She was huddled near the fence line, shaking violently, her face streaked with tears and dust, staring at the dark, still shape under the churned earth of the field. Lucas forgot the horses, forgot the strange man, forgot everything but the sight of his childhood friend. He ran to her, covering the distance in desperate strides. "Nora! Nora! What in the name of God happened here?" His voice was a raw mixture of relief and disbelief. He gripped her shoulders, turning her to face him. "Where have you been? I've watched for you every day for 3 years. We thought you'd gone. What is this?" He gestured toward the terrible scene with a trembling hand. Nora, utterly spent, began to sob, the story tumbling out of her in ragged, broken sentences. The fever, Samuel's death, the marriage, Silas's cruelty, the gambling debts, and the terrifying chase that had ended here. Lucas listened, his young face hardening with a grim adult comprehension. He pulled her into a fierce, protective embrace. "He won't hurt you ever again, Nora. Never again, I swear it." He held her close for a long moment, allowing her tears to soak into his shirt, before looking back at the dark evidence of the night's violence. "Nora," Lucas said, his voice low and determined, a strange steady quality to it. "You said Silas lost everything gambling? All of your money too?" "Yes," she whispered, wiping her eyes. "He took everything my father left us. He even took my mother's small jewelry box, trying to pay his way back into the games." Lucas nodded, a shadow crossing his gaze. "Listen to me. My father, Mr. Thorne, he keeps very careful records of who owes him money. He has a ledger of all the loans made in this region. Silas Vane took out several very large high-interest loans from the ranch's account. He lost all that money too. But your family is part of this ranch, Nora. I can help you reclaim what is yours. We will make him pay what he stole from you." He helped her climb back under the fence and led her to his gentle riding mare. He walked beside the horse, his hand resting reassuringly on Nora's leg, guiding her back to the cabin. As they reached the small, desolate house, the lamp was lit and Mary was rocking slowly, her face swollen and bruised, tears tracking paths through the dust on her cheeks. She gasped at the sight of Nora, rushing forward to clutch her daughter. Lucas stood quietly in the doorway, waiting for the embrace to end. He knew this was the moment that would define the rest of their lives. "Mrs. Vane," Lucas said, using Silas's name for formality, though he spat the name out in his mind. "Mary, the man who hurt you and Nora, he is gone. He fell victim to the herd, but I did not bring Nora back just to leave her here." He stepped closer, his gaze steady on Mary's bruised face. He swallowed hard, taking a deep breath. "Mary, I have loved Nora since the first day she came riding over with Mr. Samuel. I was a child then, and she was just a girl. But the moment I saw her, I knew. I have spent the last 3 years watching this darkness consume her light, and it has been agony. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I swore I would protect her." He turned his gaze to Nora, his eyes, deep, earnest pools in the lamplight, speaking volumes of unsaid devotion. "Nora," he confessed, his voice ringing with a conviction far beyond his years. "I've held a hope in my heart for years, a future where your smile isn't shadowed by fear, where your spirit can run as free as our Mustangs. I love you, Nora, not as a friend but as the woman I've been waiting for all my life." He looked back to Mary. "My father and mother already feel as if Nora is family. Elias, Mr. Thorne, he would never allow you to suffer. This house, this place is stained with fear and pain. It is no longer safe for either of you." He extended a hand to Mary, his young face etched with the weight of his promise. I ask you, Mary and Nora, to come back with me. Come to the ranch. Come home. My parents will give you refuge. They will give you security, and I will give Nora the protection and the life her father would have wanted for her. Mary looked from the desolate room to her daughter's face, now glowing with a fragile hope, and then to Lucas, the boy who had suddenly become a man. She saw the truth of his love and the rock of his loyalty. This was the kindness of the frontier, a love as vast and enduring as the land itself. Lucas, Mary whispered, the name a blessing. Yes, we will come with you. They left the cursed cabin that night, taking only what they could carry. The Thorn Ranch was waiting. Mary was given a place of honor, recovering her strength and dignity under the kindness of Elias and his wife. Nora and Lucas were inseparable. Their bond, forged in the dust of the corral and tempered by the fire of tragedy, grew into a profound, enduring love. Lucas proved every day that his confession was not a child's fancy, but a man's commitment, showering Nora with the steady, quiet affection she had been denied. Years later, when the scars had faded and the shadows had been chased away by the bright Arizona sun, Nora, the little girl who was once saved by the wild judgment of the Mustangs, stood with Lucas, the boy who became her protector, and they were married under the open sky at Red Rock Crossing, finally and completely home.
If you enjoy our Western stories, consider subscribing. It really helps us keep creating more for you.